Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live countdown to launch coverage for the third launch attempt of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket set to launch from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network and here at TLP. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. First and foremost, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Engage that like button, share out the stream. And while you do that, we do want to take a brief moment and just make sure that we mark today. It is the 24th anniversary of 9/11, a day that not only impacted the United States, but Canadians and the world. And we want to make sure that we mark today, we recognize today, and that we'll never forget today, especially given the state of the world. But we're glad you're here. We're glad we can give you a little bit of reprieve from everything happening around the world. We're here to answer your guys' comments and your questions about today's launch or space flight. So you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. But we will never forget 24 years ago today, and we'll never forget those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice that we get to live in a world where we are launching to space and dreaming of a multi-planetary future. And we wouldn't be able to do that without many of their patriotic sacrifices. So we remember them today. We've got lots of you joining from all over the world. We're glad to have you joining us here. We've got Jackie in Massachusetts. We got Dave in Michigan. Yukon is in Washington State. We got Chaz in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Great to have you here. We are keeping an eye on the weather. I feel like this is something that's going to be a regular for the next little bit. It is that season down in Florida where this instability shows up in the afternoon and stretches into the evening. Today's launch window opened at 7:59, or will open at 7:59 p.m. Eastern Time. It stretches till 9:56 p.m. Eastern Time. So we do have that end of window clock now running. We're just over 2 hours left in the window. We're currently 45 minutes, 34 seconds till launch. We're keeping an eye out for any updates from SpaceX on that timeline should that transition. And I want to say we just got another transition on that. Yes, we have. SpaceX is now targeting, let me make sure that we're on the updated time. They are now targeting 8:29 p.m. Eastern Time. So let me make sure that our overlay is updated here for you guys, making sure we get you those latest updates. Yeah, that is what we're currently counting down to, that 45 minutes. So we do have time today, should they need to delay for any reason. Based on our team and looking at it, everything is 50% go for launch today. So we're in that go, no go range. The big concern right now, if you're looking at the larger screen on your left, they're looking at clouds that are in the region and some weather that is developing in the area. Currently, we have no lightning watches or warnings in the region, but you can see that lightning off to the southwest side of Florida. But there on your screen, Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral currently in a purple ready state status for wind, and that UFN is until further notice. So we do not have an end of this wind warning yet, so it is possible we will see this launch delay more into the window, but we'll be keeping you up to date the latest that we can as we continue through today's broadcast. We're glad to have so many of you here. We got Jeremy watching from Pennsylvania. Christy is in Melbourne, Australia. Marcus is in Duval. Welcome. We've got Randy watching from Pennsylvania. We're glad to have you all joining us here with us today. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, and let us know in the poll, do you think third time's going to be the charm? This is the third time we've gone live, hoping that they will launch this mission here today. So we'll hopefully see it off the ground. 81 of you so far, 74% think that it will launch here today. So we'll be keeping our fingers crossed. On board today's mission, an Indonesian high-throughput telecommunications satellite that's set to operate in geostationary orbit as a replacement for the, and I'm going to butcher this name, I've been holding off trying to say the mission's name, Nusantara 2. This is Nusantara Lima. Nusantara 2 failed to reach orbit on a CZ-3B in 2020. This replacement satellite will deliver high-capability connectivity for PSN users across Indonesia's 17,000 islands and neighboring nations. The SNL Communications Payload, which will be flying on board Boeing's proven 702 MB platform and can provide over 160 gigabytes of capacity to the southern Eastern Asian markets. This is an essential payload set to head up to geostationary orbit, and with that does mean that we have some interesting launch hazard zones that will be happening here today. We're going to bring those up on the screen in just a moment's time, so bear with me those. If you do want to see our full launch alert, we post those out on social media, and we've just retweeted that onto our X account, so definitely make sure you take a moment and go and check that out. Huge thank you to our team for Andrew and Dylan for making that happen, getting those images online so that we're able to bring to you guys the up-to-date launch alerts, and so you know that the hazard areas are. We are working to bring those into our live broadcasts in a bit nicer way than I'm about to do, but I want to make sure that we include them here today because it's a very interesting window that we will have launching here today due to where the destination of today's mission is. So taking a look on your screen now, these are the hazard areas for launch, stage 1 return, and stage 2 debris. And what you might realize is that stage 2 debris is actually coming back towards North America, and that is because of the orbit. It is a highly elliptical orbit they are going into for this mission, and then with that they will be doing a deorbit burn actually just shortly after the payload deployment while the vehicle is still traveling away from planet Earth. They do that because the concern would be if they don't, they would bleed off and wear out too much of the fuel, that by the time it got closer to Earth and they were able to actually do the deorbit burn, they wouldn't be able to have enough fuel to make that possible. So I'm trying to get a video patched in that one of our crew made, pulled together really quickly for us that helps explain this, so bear with me while I try to bring that online here. If I can do that. But if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad, and I'll work on answering those live here very briefly. I will take a very quick commentary break to try to get this video pulled into the stream, and then we'll be answering your guys' comments and questions. So make sure you send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad, and I'll work on answering those live. All right, I've got this video spooled up here for you guys. Sorry, it took me a brief second there to get that online, but we wanted to make sure that we had this visible for you. A huge shout out to Dylan for bringing this video for us to be able to show to you guys on air, for making this. We're going to work on trying to do more of these in the future, especially going into the new year, but it gives a great example of this type of mission that's a little bit more rare. So shortly after SECO 2, at approximately T plus 27 minutes, 25 seconds, today's mission will separate, Nusantara Lima will separate from the second stage. Following payload deployment, the upper stage will perform a reorientation maneuver in preparation for its deorbit sequence. About 20 minutes later, the deorbit burn will then occur. This is while it is still traveling away from Earth. It'll then be on a different trajectory here. This burn will alter the orbit to allow for the second stage's trajectory to arrive at Earth differently. Following propellant pacifization, Falcon 9's upper stage will use its onboard cold gas thrusters to spin stabilize the stage for a predictable re-entry attitude into that re-entry hazard zone. So that is what that second stage is going to do here. And then there you go. T plus 4 hours, 50 minutes. Falcon 9's second stage will re-enter Earth's atmosphere, where it'll meet its demise in the ocean. But really great, quick little video there from Dylan showing what today's second stage is going to be. Really, it's though it's in many ways what we would think normally multiple orbits around, it's just doing that one big orbit out to geostationary to deploy the payload, and then we'll be bringing it back here for its demise in the second stage. Northern Lad, thank you so much for becoming a suborbital explorer. I appreciate your support there. Harlem Kid, it's cloudy here. I live near the Cape. Yeah, there's definitely some clouds in the area here today. Justin's joining us from Mississippi. Marie is in Devon, England. Ooh, Andrew gave me the pronunciation. Nusantara. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nusantara. We'll make sure we remember that. Northern Lad, hope my little membership helps you. Love from me from the UK. Every single penny helps, Northern Lad, so I appreciate that. And even if you can't become a member, I know there's many people that can't. We live in a crazy world, an expensive world. Even just watching, liking, sharing, even if it's annoying to share every single stream or the streams that you enjoy, even that all helps. So if you can't give financially, that's okay. But Northern Lad, thank you so much for that support. I appreciate it. And you will get to take part in our member-only streams as we set up our brand new studio here at our TLP Canada HQ and studio. We're super excited to kick off that new members series next week that I'll be going live, setting up the new studio, letting you know how we do some of our things, keeping a little bit of the secrets, the magic sauce and systems private, but taking you guys along the way, letting you guys have some input in what you think we should do for some of the lighting, some of the set pieces, and things like that. We're super excited to get that studio online here in the next week and a half. But that first stream currently scheduled for Monday. That is subject to change if we need to, but everything right now is looking like Monday should be possible for me to go live. Obviously, that first stream is going to be pretty rough because the studio is not set up, but we'll try in that first stream to get the studio set up to a point that we can go live on the main system for the next one and then focus on everything else that we're doing. Lots of people just jumping on. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, send in those questions in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad. I'll work on answering those live. We have had another slip in the launch countdown. SpaceX now targeting 8:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So we are going to update our T0 here on our countdown clock. We were expecting this to happen, and this is pretty normal for SpaceX that they do these short 30-minute slips while we go through the countdowns there. So now 1 hour, 3 minutes till launch at the new T0. We are 2 hours left in the window, so they have another just under an hour that they could delay if they need to, but keep in mind they do need to have that full 39 minutes for a go, no go, and prop load for launch. So we are getting closer and closer to that time where they might just end up not trying for today, but hopefully they'll be able to get off the ground. Palm Bay says, I live 30 minutes away from the Cape, clouds building. Ooh, I lost it. Clouds building presently. Don't have radar to see if Anvil clouds around. I'll take a look at our radar systems and see if we can see anything, but it is definitely something that we're going to have to be keeping a close eye on here today. We're going to take a very quick commentary break. Stay with us as we await, hopefully, the third launch attempt will be the charm, and SpaceX will be able to launch Falcon 9 here tonight. Stay with us for the latest updates as we count down T-minus 1 hour, 2 minutes, 34 seconds and counting to the current T0 for liftoff. And if you're just joining us, an update to that T0 again, another 30-minute slip. SpaceX now targeting 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time. That leaves them just 30 minutes left in today's window, not even 30 minutes left in this. So if we are going to see them run the clock and try to launch here today, they're either going to at this T0, or they might be able to slip one more time to the very end of the window. But we are definitely getting closer and closer to that go, no go point. Not even conducting a go, no go, but that they will just run out of time. But unfortunately, that cloud cover is starting to develop around the launch site. I don't know why the media feed from SpaceX from NASA Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's weather went black. I'll see if I can get that back for you guys here in just a moment, so bear with me as I try to get that back online here for you. We'll hopefully have that return, but now L-1 hour, 12 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting till launch. There we go, we got it back. You can see there that purple still on the screen for the wind conditions. Still says until further notice. That's going to be one of their issues. Of course, they'll be looking at the cloud cover as well, hoping that that improves. There are very specific conditions Falcon 9 can fly in. Anvil cloud rule is one of those concerns. Lightning is another concern. Wind is a concern, not as much as it would be for something like an Electron, but as long as we see that until further notice on the wind, I would be leaning that they're probably not going to go tonight. But we'll keep a close eye on this, and we'll bring you any sort of updates as we get them. Again, sorry about the internet hiccups there that we had. We've switched over to our backup internet, and hopefully that will stay stable for the rest of this. While we are building the new studio over the fall, we are going to update some of our internet systems to have some better backups, hopefully some stronger internet to make sure that we stay online for you guys. Even if one internet service provider goes down, we'll hopefully be able to transition to another. Even if that means we have to drop from 4K down to 1080p streams, we'd rather stay on air than miss a launch. So we're working on that. But if you're just joining us, SpaceX delay again due to weather. SpaceX now targeting 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 hour, 11 minutes from now. They got 1 hour, 38 minutes left in today's launch window. Will they get off the ground? We'll just have to wait and see. Stay with us for the latest updates right here on the launch pad.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our launch coverage of the Nusantara Lima mission. I'm Chris Gebhardt with SpaceX Communications, joining you from Hawthorne, California. It's Thursday, September 11th, and you are looking at a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket awaiting its 9:56 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Nusantara Lima will be the newest satellite in Pacific Satellite Nusantara's fleet. The Geostationary communications satellite will have the largest capacity in Asia using very high-throughput satellite technology. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, with many remote areas that are challenging to reach to provide internet. The Nusantara Lima satellite will be critical to providing essential connectivity across the country's more than 17,000 islands. We'll have more to share about today's payload in just a bit. Right now, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues, and the Nusantara Lima payload is healthy. Weather is currently a watch item, with teams and weather officers keeping an eye on some clouds in the area, as we've had to do all week for our previous launch attempts. If for some reason we do have to call a hold on today's launch, we have a backup opportunity scheduled on the range in Florida for tomorrow at 7:58 p.m. Eastern. For today's launch, the Falcon 9 team reported on console at T-minus 2 hours and 15 minutes and began their final checkout of the launch vehicle and ground systems. Final checkout of the flight termination system was performed at T-minus 1 hour 45 minutes, and the chief engineer conducted a technical readiness poll just before T-minus 1 hour. There, the Falcon 9 team completed a data review of first and second stage propellant checkouts, as well as avionics and guidance navigation and control. At that technical readiness poll, there were no issues, and the team completed another poll at T-minus 38 minutes to proceed into propellant load and launch. We're expecting to finish up loading propellants onto Falcon 9 at about the T-minus 2 minute mark. So while the countdown continues, let's take a moment to learn a little bit more about the payload on today's mission.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are now just under 12 minutes and counting till the third launch attempt of Nusantara Lima, set to launch from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us live here today. Today's Falcon 9 booster is booster 1078, set to go for its 23rd flight after a 48-day turnaround. Today will also be the 520th Falcon 9 recovery. This booster previously supported Crew 6, SCS-03B Mpower B, USSF-124, Bluebird 1-5, and 18 previous Starlink missions. SpaceX's drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, is stationed downrange in the Atlantic Ocean with a support ship ready to recover today's boosters as well as the fairings on board. Today's mission is going up into a geostationary orbit for launch, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to watch deployment here. Deployment will be just 27 minutes 25 seconds after liftoff, so make sure you don't head out anywhere. This is going to be probably hopefully one of those rare ones that we get to see deployment, but we'll wait for SpaceX to confirm whether we will see that live or not. SpaceX did confirm that they are continuing to monitor those weather conditions like you see on the right side of your screen. They looks like the cloud rule may be one of the issues that they have here today as we go into the final 10 minutes of the count. What we would expect is this countdown will run all the way down to that final go, no go for launch at the T-minus 45 second mark. As previous flights, generally speaking, if we don't hear that go by T-minus 42 seconds, we will generally hear hold, come across the net at about T-minus 30, and that is when they will delay the launch. We're hoping we don't see that tonight, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. This is the very end of the launch window. I know many of you have been with us in the chat throughout the window, so we're glad to have had you here. Thanks for being here. You make this possible. and we appreciate your guys' generous support. I did mention it earlier. I want to mention it again because I know there's many more people jumping on. So we go through the last 9 minutes and 22 seconds in the countdown. Today is 9/11. We do want to take a moment and remember the tragic day of 24 years ago that didn't only impact the United States, it impacted Canada and impacted the world. And it is a day that we can never forget. And in light of all of the recent events around the world as well, we just need to take a moment and remember all of those patriots around the world that have stood for what they believe and have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And yeah, it's a hard day today. I remember where I was clear as day, and many of you will as well. We're glad to give you a bit of reprieve from the chaos of the world right now, but I would never want to miss making sure that we do recognize the importance of 24 years ago today, the horrific importance of that. So today we remember all of those that were lost on 9/11, as well as all of those that were lost in the support efforts and the recovery efforts that were lost following. And we remember all of those that have been lost fighting for freedom and peace. As we come down to L-8 minutes and counting, we are going to patch SpaceX Mission Control back in here in just a moment once they finish this video. So listen in to those live countdown sequences. Taking a look at the timeline of events, though, the next milestone that we are expecting is engine chill. That'll occur at L-7 minutes. And then flight computers will take over the count at L-1 minute, as well as the tanks will be pressurized to flight levels ahead of that go, no go for launch at L-45 minutes. Let's listen back in SpaceX Mission Control.
9 feet tall, and at launch produces more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust from its 9 Merlin engines. Rockets like Falcon don't use all of that power just to go straight up. Early in flight, Falcon 9 will perform what's called a gravity turn, which is a smooth pitch that tilts the rocket sideways so it can build up horizontal velocity. You may hear this call out about 10 seconds into launch as vehicle pitching downrange. A couple of minutes into flight, once the first stage completes its portion of the mission, it shuts down its engines and separates. A staged rocket like Falcon 9 sheds the first stage booster so stage 2 and the payload can keep climbing faster and more efficiently. And there we just heard a call out from our launch team that we have begun thermally conditioning Falcon 9's 9 Merlin engines for ignition. Back to the mission profile, after stage separation in flight today, the first stage booster will head for a landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. This particular booster is supporting its 23rd mission today. After stage separation, the second stage takes over, powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, also known as the MVAC. And there we hear a good call out that we have finished loading RP-1 kerosene onto the first stage of Falcon 9. The second stage's MVAC engine with its extended nozzle and optimized design drives maximum performance in the vacuum of space. And topping it all off, we have the payload fairing, a 17-foot wide carbon composite shell that protects the payload during the uphill trip through the atmosphere. About 3 minutes into flight, both of these payload fairing halves will separate and then parachute back to Earth. Our fairing halves on this mission have already seen multiple flights, with one half flying for the 24th time today and the other half flying for the 16th time. If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled out of the ocean and prepared to fly again. So much of what makes Falcon 9 remarkable happens in flight. Stages separating, the first stage landing itself on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, and fairings using their parachutes to land safely for recovery, all to fly again. And getting to space is definitely the first step in building our multiplanetary future. Back to today's mission, we continue to watch the weather closely now. T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
And that is a good call out there that the propellant tanks within Falcon 9 are being pressurized. This helps the rocket be a little more stable as we prepare to retract the transporter erector, or the TE, here in the next few minutes. The TE is the large truss structure that you see standing next to the rocket. It's hinged at the base and connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage.
Strongback retract has started.
As part of the start of Strongback Retract here, we will soon see the clamps around the top of the second stage begin to open. The TE will then pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket, and will reach its fully reclined position at about T-minus 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Now you may also hear the TE referred to as the Strongback. That's just a different name for the same structure. You can see those cradle arms have opened. The TE itself is part of the structure that rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad, raises it vertical, and then stays connected until the final seconds of the countdown. The TE, or Strongback, provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between the ground systems and Falcon 9. And there you see the TE pulling back just a couple of degrees to its pre-launch position. At T0, when Falcon 9 lights its engines and lifts off, the TE will perform a final throwback maneuver to help protect its systems for a rapid turnaround for the next flight off of this pad in the coming days. Right now, both stages of Falcon 9 are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant, including RP1 kerosene, a rocket-grade version of kerosene, and liquid oxygen that's chilled to over...
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
And liquid oxygen that's chilled to over 300 degrees below zero. And as we just heard there, we have wrapped up liquid oxygen loading onto Falcon 9's first stage. At this point, liquid oxygen is still being loaded into the second stage, and that should wrap up here in the next few seconds. The reason we cool the propellants on Falcon 9 is so that they are denser, and the denser the propellant, the more performance we can get out of the same amount of fuel tanks. So before any of that propellant starts flowing through the plumbing and the engines, we chill them down, which you heard at the T-minus 7 minute mark. This prevents thermal shock and boil off when the ultra-cold liquid starts moving. Coming up momentarily, we should hear a call out for the completion of liquid oxygen loading onto the second stage.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And with that call, Falcon 9 is fully fueled for liftoff 1 minute and 50 seconds from now. You probably also notice the white clouds venting from the rocket. That's actually condensation. As the liquid oxygen warms slightly inside of Falcon 9's tanks, some of that liquid oxygen boils off, and that gas is vented out to help maintain pressures inside the tank. When the vented oxygen hits
ground
the warm,
gas closeouts.
humid Florida air, it instantly condenses into clouds. And as you heard there, we are now performing ground gas closeouts, purging all of the lines that just loaded all of that propellant into Falcon 9 to get them ready for liftoff today. Coming up in just a few seconds, we will
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And with Falcon 9 in startup, Falcon 9's computers have taken control of the count. We should hear a final go, no-go for launch call from our launch director in the next few seconds.
Launch director, go for launch.
And with our final go for launch and a good weather forecast here, for the final 30 seconds, let's sit back and watch Falcon 9 take the Nusantara Lima satellite into orbit.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine full power and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go Nusantara Lima.
Good chamber pressure is nominal.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
And at T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. In just a few seconds, we'll start throttling down the 9 Merlin engines in preparation for max Q, the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is a critical moment during flight because the combined stresses caused by Falcon 9 accelerating through the atmosphere and the ambient static pressure are at their greatest.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
To help go from vertical to horizontal, the first stage has performed a pitch kick maneuver. This maneuver, known as the gravity turn, gimbals Falcon 9's engine just a small amount to slowly turn the first stage so that it's going from straight up to a more horizontal orientation. And as you heard, we have passed through max Q. Everything looking good on Falcon 9 about a minute and a half into the flight. Coming up shortly, we'll have 3 events that'll happen in quick succession, and we should hear
chill has started.
all of those called out by mission control, starting with main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then stage engine start 1. That call out you just heard means we are now thermally conditioning the second stage's MVAC engine in preparation for its ignition. That ignition will happen after stage 1 shuts down its engines and separates, after which the stage 1 booster will begin to make its way back to Earth, descending under the force of gravity until it's time to relight its engines for the entry burn. At second engine start 1, or SES-1, we will light the MVAC engine on the second stage for the first time. And we should have main engine cutoff on the first stage booster coming up here in just a few seconds.
Main engine cutoff. MVAC startup.
And there we had those 3 events in quick succession: main engine cutoff, stage separation, and the ignition of the second stage's MVAC engine. Coming up in just a few moments, we should hear a call out for payload fairing separation. The 2 payload fairing halves are encapsulating and protecting the Nusantara Lima payload right now, but once the stage climbs into the vacuum of space, those payload fairings are no longer needed and they will be jettisoned.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Confirmation there that both stages are following the planned flight path today. And confirmation of payload fairing jettison, which you just saw there on your screen. Now, we will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel, Doug, which is currently stationed downrange in the Atlantic Ocean. Coming up in just under 3 minutes, we'll have the entry burn of the first stage booster. That should last roughly 20 seconds. At the start of that entry burn, we will relight 3 of the Merlin engines on the first stage in a maneuver that's similar to pumping the brakes to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into Earth's dense lower atmosphere. The entry burn will help reduce the heat generated from friction with the atmosphere and reduce the overall aerodynamic forces acting on Falcon 9's first stage. All of these things help maintain controlled flight and also help prepare the vehicle for the landing burn. During that entry burn, Falcon 9 will be decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but the vehicle is still moving quite fast at this point. This causes it to fly through its own engine's exhaust, also known as the rocket's plume. This deposits a layer of soot on the outside of the vehicle, which is why our flight-proven Falcon 9s look the way that they do. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, that soot builds up a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle. Now, just over 5 minutes into the flight, you can see the telemetry for stage 1 there on the bottom left of your screen as it descends through 110 kilometers altitude. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the telemetry information for stage 2 as it continues to accelerate onwards towards orbit. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, enabling more investments in critical space infrastructure. The Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission is performing or will perform this entry burn for the 23rd time tonight. The payload fairings are also flight proven on today's flight, with one half supporting its 16th mission and the other supporting its 11th. Coming up shortly on that entry burn, you can see our dual view here, Falcon 9's first stage on the left-hand side of your screen and Falcon 9's second stage continuing to orbit on the right.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we can see Falcon 9 performing its 3-engine entry burn to slow itself down as it enters Earth's atmosphere. This burn should last about 23 seconds and will help prepare the vehicle for the final landing burn down onto the drone ship.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown. Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
And confirmation of a good entry burn and that both stages of Falcon 9 continue to follow the pre-planned trajectories today. Now, the Merlin engines on Falcon 9's first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve about 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent each. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage had a thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. Conversely, the single MVAC engine on the second stage, which has a much wider nozzle, is optimized to operate in the vacuum of space and is capable of producing 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Coming up in just a few seconds.
Stage 2 is enter terminal guidance.
Stage 2 now performing the final maneuvers to enter the desired orbit today as
Stage
stage
1 transonic.
1 is now transonic, approaching the drone ship.
Should be popping in.
The first stage booster is headed for the shortfall of Gravitas drone ship stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. And stage 2 is preparing to shut down its engines after achieving the initial parking orbit today.
Stage 1 landing bird.
And there we
shut down.
see just about the same time Falcon 9's first stage reigniting its center Merlin engine for the landing burn as stage 2's MVAC engine cut off after reaching orbit.
Stage 1 landing light deploy. Nominal parking orbit insertion.
And Falcon 9 has landed on the shortfall of Gravitas drone ship. Just as it was touching down, we also had confirmation that stage 2 is in the correct orbit. So with that, we now have roughly 14 minutes of coast as the second stage moves to the point in its orbit to do its next burn, which will send the Nusantara Lima satellite into a geosynchronous transfer orbit. The start of that second burn should come at around the T+22 minute mark. We'll be back to cover that and show that and be here with you, but for now, let's enjoy some space tunes, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes.
A great rare occasion that we're going to get to see payload deployment here. Payload deployment set to occur about 17 and a half minutes from now as we are in this coast phase, and that might be the moon that we're actually seeing there on the screen, but also a great view of the satellite as it heads away from Earth. It'll be amazing to watch this altitude really start to change here over the next few minutes as it goes into this coast phase. As it'll really begin to leave this lower altitude range and head out to that geostationary orbit. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad, and I'll work on answering those live. If it was your first time here, make sure you take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage. You can stay up to date with the latest in the launch schedule. We're doing some updates to the website. We know there's some brokenness with it, so the easiest way to stay up to date with launches is to make sure you're subscribed. We're making sure we update all of the pre-scheduled stuff, a week plus in advance, getting it scheduled, keeping you guys up to date, as well as join our community Discord. In there, we ping the server, the stream alerts that every time we go live. That way, if there is ever a last-minute launch coverage or anything like that, you still get notified about that launch, even if YouTube decides not to do that. Catching up on the chat, you guys can send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad. Aaron says, we'll need to go to the store. I'll watch deployment on the replay, but thanks for being here, Aaron. We appreciate you. Chaz says, awesome, they're going to show us deployment. Yeah, it's not very often that we get to see those, so it'll be nice to see that happen here today. Toast and Loaf, a lot of times the second stage is still running when the booster lands, right? Yes, sometimes Starlink normally runs right up to about 5, 10, 20 seconds after the booster touches down, but because this is a dedicated mission with a different payload, it's very common that we see some differences there. Now, today's second stage will do one more burn. The burn that will occur on a Starlink is normally only about a second or less. Today's second burn of the second stage will occur at the 23 minutes 13 second mark, and it's going to burn until 23 minutes 57 seconds. So a much longer burn than we would see with like a Starlink mission. So another example of how Falcon 9 can be customized to the requirements of the mission. You can start to see that altitude increasing just a little bit there. It's going to be that second burn that really sets it off on its course here. It's just in its initial parking orbit at this time, but it'll be great to be able to see deployment and hopefully some great views of Earth. You can see today's launch was a little bit to the south, but mostly an eastern launch trajectory, and that is what is required to launch a payload into a geostationary transfer orbit. Taking a look at the launch schedule ahead, though, we have Starlink 17-10 set to launch from Slick 4E at Vandenberg on Saturday at 11:41 a.m. Eastern Time, 8:41 a.m. local launch time. We have CRS NG-23 set to launch on Sunday at 6:11 p.m. Eastern Time from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And then we have Starlink 17-12 scheduled for Wednesday, September 17th from Slick 40 at Vandenberg, again set to launch at 11:41 a.m. Eastern, 8:41 a.m. local time. So yes, those two launches, 17-10, 17-12, set to launch at the exact same time. We'll keep an eye if that gets adjusted. Of course, they monitor weather conditions and everything as they get closer to that. Thursday, Starlink 10-61 set to launch from Slick 40, scheduled to lift off at 5:30 a.m. Eastern. And then Sunday, September 21st, Starlink 10-27 set to launch from Slick 40 at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Time. So activity beginning to pick up on the Space Coast in Florida. This mission sitting out on Slick 40 definitely kind of delayed the capability, the Starlink missions that might have been able to launch at different launch times. This launch had to launch at a very specific time to get to its position in orbit, where Starlinks, they have a little bit more flexibility, or could have more flexibility, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. No 39A launch on the schedule at this point, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that. But looking forward to October, where it's going to be a really incredible month of flights. We've got an Atlas V, tons of Falcon 9s, we've got a Soyuz, we've got an Electron, we've got an H3 out of Japan, we have, and then looking into the rest of the year, we've got Ariane 6, Vega C, a KSLV out of South Korea possibly, Vulcan Centaur, a Minotaur IV from Vandenberg, and of course a ridiculous amount of Falcon 9s with Starlink, but also a lot of other payloads launching as well. And of course we'll bring you full live coverage of that all right here in the launch pad, so make sure you take a moment and engage that subscribe button. We're now just about 12 minutes away from that estimated time of payload deployment. Well, it's not even estimated, that's the scheduled time of deployment. give or take a couple seconds with our countdown clock there. Second engine start 2, SES2, set to occur 23 minutes, 13 seconds into flight. So math, about 8 minutes from now, we should see some activity. We'll spool up mission control audio again as we get closer to that moment for the second engine burn, and then that will be quickly followed by less than 4 minutes later, 3.5 minutes later, by deployment. Now, as we did mention earlier, with this mission going to its specific orbit to make sure that SpaceX doesn't leave any debris in space, they are going to be performing a deorbit burn almost about 20 minutes after payload deployment. We do have a quick little video we're going to run here, and then we'll patch the SpaceX video live feed back in here. This gives you just a little bit of an idea of what we can expect following payload deployment to ensure the second stage doesn't stay in orbit. And a great little info video there from our crew member, Dylan. Thanks for preparing that. Dylan and Andrew are the two that make all the hazard mapping for us and tracking these missions, getting us data in the back channels for launches, but also helping get those launch alerts out to you guys to give you just more information. We're excited to be bringing those into live streams more and more over the coming months. So, but a huge thank you for Dylan pulling that together. They came together just because even some of our own crew were trying to clarify the schedule. So if we have questions about it, we figured you guys will as well. So we're glad to be able to have shared that video with you, and we'll try to include that some more in future streams as well. Dave F., I like how Zach says, a ridiculous amount of Falcon 9s with Starlinks. I mean, it's true. I mean, some weeks we get 3 Falcon 9s with a Starlink, maybe even 4 if we're lucky, which is super amazing. Like, thinking back 5 years ago, I'm super excited that this is the point that we're at. Not so much when it's a 3 a.m. launch, but that's okay. We all suffer, we all have coffee. But it is an amazing time to be alive in the space industry as we get ready to become a multi-planetary species here, hopefully in the next, I'll say decade. Let's say decade. The next decade we'll have people on Mars, and that is going to be pretty incredible. Artemis 2 coming up early next year, sending the first people back to lunar orbit. And super excited. It's public information. NASA has invited media to view the Artemis 2 space launch vehicle and Orion after it's been stacked in the vehicle assembly building. So we do have our applications in for that. These are normally very limited events. We've applied to them before and not always been accepted. So we're hoping we can be accepted into this. I know I and a couple of our crew have applied. I will try to make it down if accepted last minute, and then we'll hopefully have some of our local crew there. But pretty incredible that we're starting to have these Artemis 2 media events, because there is a high possibility that we are now just 6-7 months away from Artemis 2 at the earliest, and that's pretty incredible since Artemis 1 was 3 years ago. It's amazing that it's been that long already. Can you believe it? But it'd be great to see the nice big orange rocket back out on the pad. I personally hope maybe we get a treat. Maybe they roll it out for Halloween. It'd be kind of great, the big orange rocket on the pad for Halloween. But we'll have to just wait and see. If you're just joining us, we're about 3 minutes away from SES2 or a second engine start to. This is going to be a 30-ish second burn to take the second stage with the payload into its actual deployment orbit. This is not its final orbit. This is the orbit it gets into to be deployed. This is its geotransfer orbit. And you can actually see it on your screen starting to appear on that right side. The blue line is the second stage's current orbit. If it wasn't to fire another burn, it would be staying in orbit safely at this lower altitude. But you can also see, look at that altitude starting to increase. This is because it is a slightly elliptical orbit. It's not a perfect circle. But when we get this engine firing in just about 3 minutes or about 2.5 minutes from now, you're going to start to see that blue line will tick up towards that white line that you're seeing appear. And that is going to shoot straight out away from Earth into that geotransfer orbit. And it's going to be quite interesting to see this map update and hopefully some live views from on the second stage. Of course, this is happening over the ocean, so there's not as many ground stations, but hopefully we'll be able to have some great live views from that here in about 2 minutes when that burn will occur. And then payload deployment now just under 6 minutes away as well, and we'll hopefully get some views there with the sun starting to creep around as the payload continues. It'll hopefully get far enough away that the sun will be able to beam and light up the satellite a little bit as it is deployed from Falcon 9's second stage. We are ready to patch in SpaceX's mission control audio when they spool that back up here in hopefully just a few minutes time as they get ready to do a final burn getting into deployment orbit and deployment of today's mission.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the Nusantara Lima mission. We are back from our first coast phase and just in time for second engine start 2. In just a few seconds, we will have a roughly 40-second burn of the second stage's MVAC engine, which is shown on, which we will see momentarily.
MVAC startup.
And there we have good call out of the ignition of the MVAC engine. This is the second burn of the MVAC on today's flight. The first burn started around 2.5 minutes into launch and lasted for about 5.5 minutes until we reached our initial orbit, which we call a parking orbit. The burn taking place right now will place the Nusantara Lima satellite into its needed geosynchronous transfer orbit for payload deploy. Let's watch and listen in for confirmation of shutdown and a good burn.
MVAC shutdown.
Confirmation that the MVAC engine shut down as expected. For the next 7 minutes, we'll be in another coast before we reach
Nominal orbit insertion.
Before we reach deployment of the Nusantara Lima satellite. And there was confirmation that we are in the proper orbit for payload deploy. So with that, we're going to take a short break and we'll see you back here in a few minutes at about T plus 27 minutes. And welcome back to the Nusantara Lima mission. We're now just over 27 minutes into today's flight and coming up on deployment of the satellite into its geosynchronous transfer orbit. To recap today's mission so far, Falcon 9 lifted off at 9:56 p.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. About 2.5 minutes later, the first stage shut down and separated, and then headed for a successful landing on the A Shortfall of Gravitas drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean about 8.5 minutes after taking off from Pad 40. The second stage then took the Nusantara Lima satellite into its desired transfer orbit via 2 burns of its MVAC engine. We're now standing by for that geostationary communications satellite for Pacific Satellite Nusantara, or PSN, to be deployed. Here's a little bit more about today's payload.
More than
in Pacific Satellite Nusantara's fleet. The geostationary communications satellite will have the largest capacity in Asia using very high-throughput satellite technology. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago with many remote islands that are challenging to reach to provide internet to. The Nusantara Lima satellite will be critical in providing this essential connectivity across the island nation's 17,000 islands. You can see a good view here of the MVAC engine that brought us into the needed geosynchronous transfer orbit today. And there is a good view from a camera located on the top of Falcon 9's second stage, looking at the bottom of the Nusantara Lima satellite, which we should see deploy here in just about a minute. For the launch portion of today's mission, the Falcon 9 booster that performed the first part of the ascent was supporting its 23rd flight, while the 2 payload fairing halves were supporting their 16th and 11th missions respectively today. Those payload fairings will be picked up out of the Atlantic Ocean by our recovery ship Doug, and the booster, which landed on A Shortfall of Gravitas, will be brought back to Port Canaveral for refurbishment for a later mission, as will the payload fairings. We should see payload deploy in just a few seconds. And like clockwork, there we go. Nusantara Lima is flying free in its geosynchronous transfer orbit after being launched successfully by Falcon 9 today. And also getting a good view of sunrise as Falcon 9 circles the Earth after lifting off in darkness from Florida. But with confirmation of payload deploy, that will bring an end to our live launch coverage.